Hey, hello everyone. This is Bruno Souza here for Code for Life, and I'm here on the last part of my travel to Netherlands to where JFall is going to happen. So in a few more minutes, I'm going to be arriving at the city where JFall happens, and this afternoon I'm going to be there to see the event and organize the mentorship hub that's going to happen tomorrow, right? So I'm very excited about this. But yesterday I was in the meetup for the Amsterdam JavaScript group, and had such a very cool presence there. Everyone, it was such a nice event. Thanks to the Amsterdam JavaScript group. But I had a great question that I wanted to tackle today. And there's one person right in front of the audience, and he asked that, because we're talking about growing beyond senior, right? So all the steps, the path to grow beyond senior, and we're talking about, the people path, where you can be a manager. We talk about the technical path, where you can go technically without managing anyone. We talked about, the community path, right, where you can be a technical person, a non-technical area for a company. We also talk about the independence path and the entrepreneurship path, all kind of things that you can do to grow beyond senior. And I think that's, and so there was one question from this person right in front of the audience, and he said, look, he said, all these paths you're talking about, they all sound very cool and they look like those are things you can do in a big company, right? But I work in a small company. So what do I do? Right? Can I actually grow beyond senior in a small company, right? And I thought that was very interesting because I do work in a small company, right? And so, and of course, the independence and this entrepreneurship path are exactly the path where you build your own company. So yes, it's totally possible. It's actually very interesting to grow beyond senior in a small company. But even the other path, right? A small company has lots of advantages and also disadvantages. I think that's there's pros and cons, right? It was funny because we're talking about small companies with this guy, and then during the break, right, I had a great discussion with Martin, the guy that set up the room for the meeting, and he works for ABN AMRO Bank, right? So he's working for this huge, humongous company, and he was telling the advantage that he sees of working for big companies, right? And so here's what I think, whether you are in a small or a big company, here what I think that you can work on, right? So the big advantage of small companies is that you have more autonomy, right? Small companies, you can probably do whatever you want to do. You can probably just kind of work with the managers and work with the owners of the company, right? So you have more direct access to the decision makers. So you can easily become a decision maker yourself. And I think that the biggest challenge that small companies have is that they need to appeal to customers. They need to get new customers. And I think that if you're willing to grow beyond senior, right, that's one of the things you're probably going to have to do is work to get, to get new customers, right? I mean, whatever it is, right? Your company might do software, your company might do services, and so you have to understand that in a smaller company, having new customers, having access to customers, it's probably the most important thing that the company needs, right? Unless, of course, you're being financed by someone and you actually don't need customers because you already have like a big customer that's financing you, for example, that would be a different thing, right? But in general, so if you're working for a small company, the thing that you have to think about is, okay, so what can I do to really help the company to succeed, right? And you have more flexibility, you have more autonomy to actually go ahead and figure that out and do what needs to be done. And so it's very easy for developers to think, oh no, because Bruno, my work is to develop software, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go and focus on developing software. And sure, I understand that. And that's, if that's what you want to do, that's probably the primary goal. But if you're not working aligned with what the company needs, right, then you're not going to be participating on the success of the company as much, right? So even if all you're doing is writing code, think about how to get customers. Think about how to grow your career by attracting people for your company, right? Because it might be attracting other developers to come work for you guys, because a smaller company has usually less power to attract people. All the Googles and Microsoft and Oracles of the world are attracting all the top talents there because they're paying lots of money. And the small companies, many times, actually they're able to pay even more, right, than the big companies. That's crazy, right? But they are, and not all of them, right? There's many small companies that they're small in size but not in revenue, right? So they're willing to pay even more than the big companies are paying, but they don't have the same attraction. They don't have the same name, they don't have the same visibility. So not as many people are trying to work for them, right? So you can be the catalyst to bring new great developers to work with for your company, for example. That could be a great thing that you can do. And also customers, right? Customers is the thing that actually get the companies to succeed, right? So getting so you can grow your career by giving talks, participate in open source projects, whatever it is that you're trying to do to get visibility. All of those things are going to help your small company to succeed, right? And so then you can think about big companies have the same kind of problem. Well, big companies, it's harder for you to be involved with everything that a company does, right? And so on big companies, it's easier for you to just kind of focus on, not just focus on your work. I mean, in both cases, you have to focus on your work, but on big companies, it's sometimes harder for you to have impact on areas that are not directly the areas that you work on, right? And so, but on big companies, there's a big advantage, right? Because you can also have a lot of autonomy, because it's not, many times there's not as many because there's lots of people doing things, right? You might have more time to do whatever needs to be done, right? So you can fight for autonomy in a bigger company too, right? And a big company, many times you have the chance to cause a larger impact, right? Because they're doing some larger things, for example, right? So, and I think that's, I was talking to a friend of mine some time ago, and she worked for Oracle. And one of the things that she said was that she loves to work for big companies because she can see the impact that she's bringing. The impact is much larger because because bigger companies have a larger reach, have a bigger budget, for example, right? So, for example, ABN AMRO Bank was able to host, like 100 developers yesterday, and paid for the food and all that. Maybe a small company would not be able to do the same thing. So a bigger company have more resources, right? But for you to use that resource, you have to be autonomous and you have to go after that. When a small company, you might just be able to talk to your manager, the CEO of the company, and get some resource for what you want to do. They're going to be more limited, but they might be easier to get. On a bigger company, you might have to go through multiple hurdles and talk to multiple people until you find someone that can actually give the resource that you need. So both of them have their challenges, of course, but I think in both cases, small company or big company, you can do a lot of good things, especially if you get autonomy, right? If you think about what is the biggest advantage for the company, what's the company's looking for, and you go find your autonomy. That's the most important thing. Go fight, go conquer your autonomy. That's gonna make your career a lot better, right? So this is Bruno Souza for Code for Life, and follow here's his channel so you can see all the tips I'm gonna be giving here during this trip. See ya.